Hello, my name is Alejandro Gonzalez, and this is Lab 5-5, where we will be identifying audit data requirements. So we are starting in the DA audit working papers. And so we're going to go ahead and look inside the master audit file. Then here we're going to access this document called the audit action sheets. All right, so here we have audit action sheet 1, audit action sheet 2 for the accounts payable. The first one is for suspicious sellers. And then this third one, we have audit action 3 for duplicate payments. And so what we want to do is we want to use the yellow highlighter to identify any master transaction tables, use the green highlighter to identify any fields or attributes, and then we're going to use the blue highlighter to identify any specific values or rules. And so to do that, we're going to go to a new spreadsheet in the master audit file. So we're going to go back here. So we have this audit action sheets, new, and then we're going to click Excel workbook. All right. And then we are going to name it audit automation summary. And then we're going to go ahead and create our columns. So we're going to have AAS member table, attributes, values slash rules, steps, and then notes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into these policies over here, and then we're going to go ahead and highlight, as we mentioned, with the yellow, green, and blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause it, and I'm going to update with the highlighting. So we have gone ahead and highlighted what we needed for the audit action sheet 1 for the suspicious suppliers. So now we are going to go to the audit automation summary, and we will be updating it there um, with the table that we created. We're going to go here, and then we will start for the table. We want employee, and then I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then I'll explain once I'm done. So now I'm going to explain what we did for the audit action sheet 1. So here we have the audit action sheet 1. Just to identify, if we were to have a table, we could have one for employees, some attributes that we would want to have, no missing fields, and this would help with step 1. Don't have any notes for that. We could have another one for suppliers, and we would just need to make sure that we have a name, address, and zip code, and no matches between the employee address and the vendor address, just so no employees are going in there, and making sure that there are no fuzzy lookups. This helps with step 1, 2, and 3, especially number 2. No, look in both directions. So this kind of goes with not the suppliers. This could go for the employee as well. Just to make sure that the suppliers aren't using an employee address and that the employers aren't using, or the employee isn't using the suppliers as well. This helps with step one. And then last, we have this payment. So if we had a payments table, we would want to make sure that all the purchases match to a purchase order. And so in a special value slash rule, we would want all purchases must match with the purchase order. And this would actually help with steps 4 and 5, where we would be identifying any transactions that invoke suspicious suppliers and reviewing those with management. And that would help with the third policy, making sure that payments should only be approved to approved suppliers with supporting documentation. So if there's anything suspicious, it would be brought up with management. And with that, we are now going to move on to the second audit action sheet, and I will resume the video when I'm done with that. Okay, so now we're looking at audit action sheet 2 for the account payables balance. So I went ahead and highlighted some items that I found would be beneficial. Um, and so mainly for the tables, I found two. So one would be the maybe like the account payable and the suppliers. Um, so if we go here to the table, we have this age the accounts payable, or we could have it as outstanding, whatever it need be. Some attributes that it should have is it should be classified by how aged it is. So for example, if it's 1 to 30 or 30 to 60 or 60 to 90 or 90 plus, that is something that needs to be in there for it to be um, identifiable, because if you, as you see in step 2, we need to identify any accounts with outstanding balances older than 60 days. So if we were to have just how much was owed and no time, then we wouldn't know when to try to collect that, and when to receive additional documentation. Some values slash rules. So in there, some of the stuff you may have are balance, extension, and then revision of payment terms. So by having all of these rules in there, we'll ensure that we are doing our due diligence with those suppliers. And that helps with steps 1, 2, and 3. And a note is that when we're doing this, we should also include timestamps of when we are revising this, just because um, one of the policies is that it should be calculated regularly, just to ensure that we are following payment terms and company policy. So timestamps will ensure that the person who is reviewing it has some documentation that they did it. Next, if we were to have like a suppliers table, one of the attributes we would want it to have is updated client information. Um, So this is really important with the payment terms and company policy. It's going to differ from company to company, so we want to make sure that the way we are charging them on the aged accounts payable table is correct. So values, all suppliers with aged AP must be approved. So this is important because we don't want any um, suppliers on there. Um, that we don't need, and maybe employee, maybe something else, maybe a sign of fraud. So we don't want anything to do with that, especially because we are owing them. So there could be some fraud. And that helps with step 1 to help calculate the age accounts payable balance for the suppliers. So the first step of that is having the suppliers and making sure that they have the right terms. And then, like I said, look at the payment terms and the company policy, just because it's going to differ from company to company. Um, and that's going to affect when we think that we should try to collect those balances. And with that, we are going to move on to the last one, and I will resume the video when I'm done with that. Okay, and so for this last one, we're looking at the duplicate payments. So I went ahead and highlighted some things that I thought would be beneficial. So when looking at the audit automation summary, we could create a table for the purchase orders. An attribute that we want to have on there is the invoice number, only an instance. And then this would cover step 1, where we identify the payments file, any duplicate payments made to suppliers. Um, so we have that. And then we could also have like a different table, a little bit different from the purchase orders that would have the payments. So one of them could be like higher level and the other one could be lower level. And so this one would be a bit more meaty. And so we'd have more information. So on this one, we would want to have, as the policy states, the invoice, the goods receipt, and then the original purchase order. A rule that we would have is that we would need to have all three, and this would cover steps 1 and 2. And an important note to have is that anything more should be brought up, um, but also anything less because it should match up exactly with the three: the invoice, the goods receipt, and the original purchase order. Anything more or less is something that is a concern because it may mean that there are additional or resubmitted invoices. And actually, one more thing that I would add on here for the only one instance is we could add if we do find something that needs to be brought up to management, we could have that it needs to one of the values could be that we have additional or resubmitted invoices. So in the case that an accounts payable clerk or somebody is working on this and they do find an instance where the purchase order doesn't match up with the invoice number, um, then we would have maybe like a column, um, like an attribute where we could put additional or resubmitted invoice, just so that if someone else does come and look, they can see that the work was already done for this additional or resubmitted invoice. And with that, that wraps up audit action 3. And as we can see, we are now done with the audit automation summary. We were able to go through audit action sheet 1, 2, and 3, highlight any master transaction tables, any fields or attributes, and any specific values or rules. And with this, if we were to audit a client, we now have kind of a plan and where we want to go with this, and what things to look at, especially just based off these policies that we have. And with that, that wraps up Lab 5-5. Thank you very much.